let's get to it. Let's go from New England and Tampa Bay to the other side of the country, to Seattle, because not only is Russell Wilson present for offseason workouts in Seattle, unlike another disgruntled quarterback or two, Russell Wilson is speaking to reporters. And Russell Wilson would like us all to know that back when things got a little bit hairy in February, he did not ask the team to trade him. Here's Russell.
I think there were some, unfortunate frustrations after the season. Obviously, you want to win it all and do it all and do everything you can, and I think everybody on our team does. We all want to win it. And, I think unfortunately it got a little, little bit blown out of proportion a little bit. I think that my ultimate goal is to win. I get paid to win. I get paid to find a way. I get paid for us to be able to make a play, continue to find ways to win. And we've done a lot of that over the years. And, the mission is to continue to do the same, but do a little bit more. And I think the reality is that that's the only thing I'm focused on is winning and doing whatever it takes to win. That's why I wake up every day and lace my cleats on and train every day. And that's what my teammates are doing too. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. In terms of the trade talks, I think that anytime you play professional sports, there's always a possibility of something happen, right? And I think that's just the reality. I think that there's a lot of teams out there that people were saying that I was going to or would go to. I requested a trade. I did not request a trade. I've always wanted to play here, and the reality is, I think calls were getting thrown around and this and that, and I think that's just a reality. But I think at the end of the day, the real reality is that I'm here, and I'm here to win. And I'm here to win it all.
What was the intent of having your agent give 4 teams so publicly?
Well, I think there's a lot of confusion because the reality is that I forget. I think I was in the Bahamas or somewhere, and everybody was saying that I requested a trade, and that wasn't true. So we made it clear that I did not request a trade. And then there was teams being flown around that I was going to go to those teams, this and that. And so, I think that when you look back at it, it's part of I don't know. I think it's part of it, unfortunately. And I think that more than anything else, that I got my wish, in the sense that I've always wanted to play here. That's where I am. That's where I am right now, and that's what I've always hoped for ever since 2012 when I put all the names in a hat and pulled out the Seahawks out of a hat, and then sure enough, about 30 days later, the Seattle Seahawks picked me. So, that's my mission, that's my goal, and that's why I'm here today and ready to roll.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I wouldn't have expected anything else from a guy who had been rehearsing and conducting press conferences since he was a little boy. That's well documented. He's been groomed for these moments. And he really couldn't have said anything other than what he said. Not that anyone who's been paying close attention to the story is going to buy it. It has never happened before that I'm aware of, Miles, that a franchise quarterback's agent has come out and said, my client doesn't want to be traded. But in the event that he is, here are the 4 teams to which he would gladly accept a change of address: Raiders, Bears, Cowboys, Saints. That's never happened before. And you could tell that he was about to just tap out when it was getting close to that point. And if there would have been a break for someone to kind of pounce and ask him a tougher question, that's a problem with press conferences. You don't get the back and forth that you would in an interview. But if someone had a chance to really grill him on this, he's not going to hold up very well under questioning. Because obviously he authorized his agent to say what he said. This wasn't a product of teams being thrown around. No teams were being thrown around. What was being thrown around is this guy wants out. And while we're trying to come to terms with him wanting out, that's when his agent drops the 4 teams he'd play for, Miles. So, look, again, he said what he had to say because now he's in Seahawks mode because he has no choice. He didn't get traded. So he's got to love the one he's with until next February when he tries it all over again, maybe with some other strategy.
Yes, there is a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove, and that's why he's got to be able to just say, I love the Seahawks, man, and I have always wanted to be here. And that is just the beautiful thing I think about this, is that when you have Russell Wilson, and when he starts talking, like you said, he's been rehearsing how to be in press conferences since he was a little kid. And that just makes him the robot of all of the robots. But you can't tell me that things got blown out of proportion when your agent was the one who released the list of 4 teams that you would be traded to in the event that you had actually requested a trade. So I don't know that anybody was actually saying that Russell Wilson had requested a trade, at least the way I recall things going on back in February when all this stuff started coming out. I just feel like it was more one day, we had heard after he went on the Dan Patrick Show and all of that different stuff that if he was going to be traded, then these are the 4 teams that he would want to go to. And I don't recall ever hearing something like that either, especially when it's a franchise quarterback who was just in the postseason. And I mean, they did pretty well that year, right? They won the division. Did they win that playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams at home? No, they did not. But I think Russell Wilson is still in a position where it's like, wow, he would get traded to these 4 teams. That's a big, big deal. And you can't say that that's blown out of proportion. It's not.
I didn't ask for a trade because I didn't have to ask for a trade, because my discontent was well documented by virtue of the things I said into a microphone with Dan Patrick. That was all contrived, engineered, manufactured. That played out exactly the way that Russell Wilson and his agent Mark Rodgers wanted it to play out. Wilson pulled the pin himself on live radio and TV. You don't need to go knock on Pete Carroll's door after that. You've made your discontent known, not to mention how miserable he looked sitting in the luxury suite with his wife and the commissioner watching Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes play in the game that Russell wants to play in every single year. Got to win, got to win, got to win, got to win. I don't know that you and I have had this conversation, but I really continue to be fascinated by the disconnect between telling little kids, why do you got to win all the time? Let somebody else have a turn. And admiring adults who are obsessed with winning. It can only be winning. All I can do is win. I have to win. I'm here to win. I got to win. It's not how you play the game. It's how you win the game. But regardless, it torments him. This is a guy who wants to be regarded as the greatest of all time. And maybe if he was with the right team, he'd be on that path. That's what he believes. He believes he's Patrick Mahomes stuck in a team that wants him to be Jim Zorn. And that's where the pressure is. That's why this isn't going away. Unless Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator, Miles, turns this guy into Patrick Mahomes, it's not going away.
No, it's not. And, I think the interesting thing that we all know is that Pete Carroll wants to win these games by running the ball, controlling the game, and playing really, really good defense. That's who Pete Carroll is. That's who they've been the entire time that Pete Carroll has been there. And the one time they didn't was, last year when we started talking about let Russ cook. And it worked for a while up until it didn't. And then at that point, Pete Carroll reverted to who he is at his core, which is we're going to run the ball, we're going to control the game, we're going to control the clock, and we're going to try to play as good a defense as we possibly can. That's how they won the division last year. That's how they've been successful for however long it's been that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have been together. I mean, it's almost been a decade of success that they've had, right? So when you're looking at it from that perspective, I understand why Pete Carroll wants to do the things that he wants to do, but I do also understand Russell Wilson, who feels like, man, I am very good. Everybody around this league regards me as one of the top quarterbacks in this league. I want to be able to play in a situation where I can win championships, and then my legacy is such that I am thought of as one of the greatest of all time. And anybody who thinks that players don't think about their legacy are sorely mistaken, because of course they do. I mean, like you just said, Mike, like everybody thinks about winning. That's how they do this. That's how driven they are. That's why they're successful. So of course he's going to be thinking about how are they going to think about me once I'm out of this game.
Tom Brady's got 7. Patrick Mahomes has 1. Aaron Rodgers has 1. Russell Wilson has 1. Russell Wilson wants more than 1. He wants all of them. And this Tom Brady experience from last year, I think, has thrown a wrench into so many franchises from the standpoint of getting their quarterbacks to the point where they look at what's gone on with Brady. They say, I'm better than that guy. I can throw it farther. I can run faster. I can win better if I'm in a spot where they listen to me. Remember the report from The Athletic that after the Seahawks lost a couple of games, when other teams were catching up with the changes they made offensively to let Russ cook. You come out of the gates for the first 6-7 weeks, everything's fine. Then they pick up your tendencies and your tells, and they start shutting you down, and you don't know how to counter it because you're not self-scouting yourself the way that you should. He comes in with some ideas in advance of the Thursday night game against the Cardinals, and they basically politely tell him, get the hell out of here. Or not politely, but you just work here. That's what this all comes back to. The you just work here attitude. That's the attitude that's been directed to Aaron Rodgers. That's the attitude that's been directed to Russell Wilson. That's not the attitude that's been directed to Tom Brady. That's the core of this. And that's why Russell let me conjugate properly, is now accepting of his situation, was in February trying to find an escape route. And one of the ways that he made his discontent clear was in expressing dissatisfaction about the number of sacks that he takes. He was asked yesterday about whether that has necessitated any type of heartfelt conversations with the men charged with the task of blocking for him. Here's the question he was asked and his answer.
With the comments you made about the offensive line and being frustrated with getting hit, some people have taken that as maybe criticism of the offensive line. Do you feel like that's anything you would need to sort of clear up within the offensive line, or do you feel like, did you mean that as sort of a direct criticism of the offensive line in general?
Not at all about the offensive line. I think that I also mentioned that the reality is that I can do better too. I think that's we're all trying to find ways to win. We're all trying to find ways to be better. And I think that listen, Dwayne Brown's one of my closest friends, man. That guy's everything to me. I think about D. Lou and what a player he was last year. He's going into his second year. I think about a guy like Posick, who's been tremendous up front and how smart he's been. I'm excited about Gabe Jackson. He's been amazing in the Zoom calls. He's been amazing in his approach, how tough he is. I've watched a lot of film of him, and just how good he's been. And then obviously Shell over there at right tackle, and we've got a lot of other guys that can play too as well. So I think that, I think about, a guy like Kyle who stepped in to play center for us in a big game last year against the Rams and, played injured and played dinged up and all that. I love my teammates. The reality is that, guys, I think about guys like Bobby Wagner, a guy I've played, this is going to be my 10th year with him, how special he is and how special our bond is. I think about a guy like DK Metcalf. He's like my little brother. Tyler Lockett, who's, one of the most, unbelievable people you could ever meet, but also talented guys you could play with. I think about the hard work Freddie Swain's put in, Chris Carson. I think about, our, Jamal Adams and how amazing he's been, addition to our team. Obviously Diggs and other guys as well. And, so for me, playing on this team means a lot to me. Winning means everything to me. And I think that's the heart of hearts of, and everybody on my team and everybody in our team in the locker room, they all know that about me, is that I'm going to do whatever it takes to win and try to find a way to win every play, every moment, every second. And, that's just in my blood.
I like how he looked away to make sure no one from his team was sneaking up on him as they were listening to that. Look, hey, I love Russell Wilson. I do. I think he's a great quarterback. And I understand why he says what he says. I get it, right? He's saying what he thinks he has to say. Whether he truly believes it or not, it's a different issue. He's saying what he thinks he has to say. And we always knew there was going to be a reckoning when he said what he said back in February. We knew there was going to be a cleanup on aisle 5 at some point. And the mop and the bucket were going to be out. And I just think it was funny that he starts off, rattling off the names. Like, hey, guys, hey, I said all of your names. How can you be mad at me? I said all your names. And then while he was at it, he just started throwing out every other name he could think of on the team, because if he said enough names, maybe by the time he stopped talking, the reporters would forget what the topic was. I think it's brilliant, Miles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I love all my guys up front. Gabe Jackson just got here. See, I know your name too, my guy. But look, at the defensive side, we've got Bobby Wagner. Oh, my goodness, Jamal Adams. I love this guy too. I mean, I wish I had started counting all of the names that he just started saying when he was doing that, because that was it reminds me of a couple years ago when the Rams were in the playoffs and Sean McVay started rattling off all those names. I think actually it was before the playoffs when he was talking about the Bears.
Against the Bears.
Oh, yeah, they've got, yes, yeah. They've got all these guys on defense, and I know every single starter.
Don't get me started that a head coach who's an offensive expert happens to know the name of all starters on the defense he's about to play that weekend. And everyone was amazed. Yeah. He knows all their names. Whoa, no, almost got myself in trouble. No, crap, he does.
Whoa, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no bleep, right? Yeah, exactly. He should know the names. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to attack those guys. But yeah, I mean, Wilson, I think you're right. He knows exactly what he has to say. So he then goes out there and he says it. But like, when you look at what he said on the Dan Patrick show, he said, we have to get better up front. That is a direct criticism of the offensive line. And so whether or not he's going to say, no, I have to apologize, no, I don't have to apologize, I'm going to admit that you needed to apologize in a press conference. At least I probably wouldn't, especially if that thing is on Zoom and I'm looking into, a laptop and I'm not actually seeing people in person. And so I think that maybe they can't quite read my body language as well as they might be able to otherwise. But you can't say, again, that this is not what you said when you said it. We can go back, we can listen to the quotes, we can read the quotes, we can watch it because it's on a clip on YouTube, right? Like it's there in 4K, man. They caught you. So I don't really know what else you want to say, Russell Wilson, but like once you start rattling off all of these names, yeah, it does sort of serve as like a little distraction from maybe the topic at hand.
There was a time, Miles, back when you were probably collecting Cleveland Browns football cards and picking out the Ravens cards and throwing them into the fireplace, where Peyton Manning, after a playoff loss, said, I'm trying to be a good teammate here. Let's just say we had problems in pass protection and got killed for it, destroyed for it. And what he said was about 15 degrees tamer than what Russell Wilson said with his own mouth back in February when he was trying to agitate for a trade without actually saying the words, trade me. So, again, clean up on aisle 5. I get it. The dog went somewhere that the dog shouldn't have gone. Gotta have that pet cleanup. Gotta do it. I get it. But look, he can't take away what you said. And you said what you said for a specific strategic reason. There are no accidents with Russell Wilson. And he knew that someday, if he didn't get the trade that he wanted, he was going to have to put the toothpaste back in the, as Shereen Williams would say, toothpaste holder. That's it. It's that simple. It's that simple. So you accept it for what it is. We knew it was inevitable. He's going to try to make it work this year. And if it doesn't, we're going to do it again next year. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Where are they going to be traded to next year if it doesn't work this year for the Seahawks?
Yeah, well, it's just we're in a situation where now that it's over, right? You're not going to trade Russell Wilson at this point. At least I don't think that you would, because if you do, then you probably wouldn't be very competitive in what's going to be a very competitive division, that is the NFC West this season. So I just feel like until there is some sort of real tangible resolution, I don't know that we're going to get that in Seattle with Russell Wilson, just by the way things have gone here over the last year or so. Then this is going to be a cycle that continues to come up. So, look, I mean, Russell Wilson in Seattle, they seem to have mended fences enough to get by this year. But, I just don't know that we're going to be able to say, yeah, Russell Wilson is going to be a Seahawk for life. At this point, it just doesn't seem like to me that's going to be the case.
When he did his last contract 2 years ago, someone said to me, this is the last contract he's doing with the Seahawks. And I still believe that. He's got 3 years left. Typically, it's time to go back to the well with 1 year left. So we're 2 years away from the next negotiation, if he's even there in 2 years. Next negotiation is going to be $50 million plus. And at some point, it's very simple. At some point, he wants more than what he's worth to the Seahawks because the Seahawks don't use him the way that they should be using a guy like Russell Wilson. That's what he believes. That's what others believe. And the only way we're going to find out is if he goes to a team that uses him like Patrick Mahomes. That's it, plain and simple. And that tension is going to be there. You can set it aside from July through whenever your season ends. But it comes back, especially if you don't win, especially if you watch Tom Brady get number 8 or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes get number 2 and double your output of Super Bowl wins. So it's not going anywhere.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.